only found this out a couple of weeks ago on my birthday when I was presented with this little box. Hi guys, Jamie at Clue Amateurs here. I hope you're doing well. I'm back today with a knife review, and this is a knife that I'm super excited to review. This is a knife that I've wanted to own for maybe 7 or 8 years, ever since I've really been into UK legal EDC folders. But every time I've gone to buy it, I've either convinced myself that I don't need it or that it's too expensive. And this happened again in the summer when Heinnie Haynes released their special edition of it. Now, for those of you who don't use Heinnie Haynes, you might not know, but they often do special editions of very well-selling knives by working with the manufacturer. These will often have their kind of signature red handle scales. They're often a limited run and usually at quite a significant discount to the main production knife. But when this particular knife special edition was launched, I had just moved house, had a lot of other expenses, and I was pretty happy with my EDC. In fact, I still am. And so once again, I convinced myself not to buy it. Thankfully though, my lovely girlfriend was clearly paying attention as I was going through this should I, shouldn't I, and she bought me one. I only found this out a couple of weeks ago on my birthday when I was presented with this little box. So let's open it up and take a look. I have had this out of the box, just put it back in for review, and there we have it. This is the Boker Plus XS. Now this, I think, is just a lovely knife, and we're going to take a closer look at it in a moment, and hopefully you'll agree with me. So one-handed opening, UK legal, so sub 3-inch blade, nice strong backspring, but a one-handed opening, UK legal EDC folder. So let's take a closer look at it. So before we get right into the review, let's take a closer look at what you actually get in the box. So it comes in this nice kind of matte black box, the Boker logo on it, magnetic closing and a security seal. Really quite nice premium packaging for Boker Plus. We open it up and we find the knife in this foam cutout. So I'll just pop that to the side for a moment and take a look at what else we get in here. So you have... So you get some instructions on how to remove the one-hand opening pin, the thumb pin. And this is kind of quite a nice feature of this knife. They've really gone in for making this knife legal in as many places as possible. And there you've got the little torque screw Allen key for removing that. And also for tightening or loosening the pins that hold together the knife itself. Now, I'm not entirely sure how you're meant to use that to get this off. I feel that may have actually been for a previous incarnation of the knife and it's still included. I've got no intention of taking it off though, so not a big deal for me. We then have all of Boker's kind of standard literature. So you've just got their kind of limited lifetime warranty policy, how to use the knife, what it's designed for, and that constant reminder that the pocket clip is a pocket clip, not a belt clip. You've then got the same thing in German. Obviously though, no one's buying this knife just to look at the box. This is what we're really interested in. So let's start off by talking about the aesthetics and the materials. Now, in terms of the design of this knife, I think it's got some really lovely curves to it. There's not really a single straight surface on here. It's got all these really nice sweeping curves, which makes it really attractive to look at. Opening it up, again, you've got this nice curved drop point blade, and that's in kind of a satin finish as opposed to a stainless finish. Now, if we take a quick look at my usual EDC, which is the Boker Plus Atlas Multi, it's got this mirror finish, which is nice, apart from the fact it picks up fingerprints and scratches horribly. For an everyday use knife, I am actually a big fan of kind of matte or satin finishes that just hide those blemishes a bit better. Now that blade, it's also got this kind of bit of grind on the top that's not sharpened, but it does give it this really nice profile. You've got the, in focus, you've got the Boker Plus logo there, and the, I think this is a Los Banos knife, so the Los Banos logo there, serial number on the back, so this is number 0494, and you've got the blade steel on the other side. Okay, sorry, that's deciding not to focus, but this is a 9CR 13CO MOV steel. Now, I'm not a big steel guy. Like, if it works, I'm happy with it, is kind of my approach to blade steel, so I did have to do a bit of reading on this. Now, this apparently is a slightly better, harder, and more robust steel than the Japanese Oz 8 because it's got slightly higher cobalt content. I might actually do a video on the alloying of knife steels because while I'm not an expert on using different steels, my chemistry background means I am actually pretty knowledgeable about the role of different metals in different steels. Anyway, back to this. This is a Chinese steel, but it's definitely one of the better steels coming out of China at the moment, and you've got knives which are much more premium than this opting to use that steel. So a really nice blade choice, should give good corrosion resistance, but also good edge retention. Looking then at the scales, these are in a really nice bright red G10 with kind of a nice fine texture to them. And this gives it a bit of grip without making it look kind of cheap and plasticky. What I've been really surprised about with this is the shade of red combined with that texturing makes this knife look very different in different lights. So in kind of bright light like this, it looks like quite a bold red, but in lower lights, it looks kind of orangey. And yeah, it's just a really nice finish. No burrs or rough edges. It's really nicely finished and it feels really good in the hand. You've also got this pocket clip, once again in kind of that satin finish, which I'm a big fan of, and once again lots of curves, a nice kind of bump to it, so it sits on the hem of your pocket without damaging it. 3 nice big torque screws, and that is reversible. You can pop that onto the other side of the knife. I'm going to talk a bit about that when we talk about the functions in a moment. Okay, so in terms of size and weight, okay, so closed, the knife is 10.5 centimeters long by 3.5 centimeters wide, and excluding the pocket clip, just short of a centimeter deep. Or for those of you on the other side of the Atlantic, that's about 4 inches long, 1.25 inches wide, and 3/8 of an inch deep. Now, if you pop open the blade, as I've said, this is a UK legal folder, so it does have to have a sub 3-inch cutting length, which this does. That comes in at 7 centimeters or 2.75 inches. It's a nice deep blade, which I really like. So that's coming in at about 3 centimeters or just over an inch. And it's also quite a thick blade. It's not super chunky, but that's about 3 millimeters thick. So about 1/8 of an inch. So that's going to stand up to a little bit of abuse. Obviously, this isn't going to be a hard use knife, but that is a nice chunky blade that you can have a bit of confidence in. So if we now just check the weight of the knife as well, I've got my little scales. Okay, and that is weighing in at pretty much dead on 100 grams. So not a super heavy knife, but you're definitely going to know it's hanging there on your pocket. So in terms of functions and safety features, so obviously this is not a multifunctional knife, it is just an EDC folder, but it has a really nice one-hand opening action for a slip joint. I think Boker, or Boker Plus rather, have really knocked it out of the park here in finding a nice balance between having one-hand opening capability, so a light enough backspring for that, but a heavy enough backspring that it's not going to slam shut on your fingers with the slightest bit of pressure. Now, to ensure further against that, they've also introduced this nice wide finger choil, so when you're holding it, you can get your finger in there, and even if something does apply pressure to the back of the blade, your finger is going to keep the blade open, and you've got a little bit of plain steel there to keep your finger away from the cutting edge. Now, in terms of grips, obviously you can hold it kind of at this angled grip with 3 fingers on here and 1 in the choil. You can hold it further up, kind of more of a bushcrafty grip if you did decide to use this knife for something a bit heavier. I also find it quite comfortable to just get 4 fingers down there, but obviously then you aren't utilising that choil, and so you are at a slightly greater risk of closing the knife on your fingers. The knife is fully ambidextrous, which I really like. A lot of one-handed openers are often geared towards the right-handed market and take quite a lot of faffing about with to make them left-handed. Now, I am right-handed, but I just appreciate when things are designed to be used by everyone. So you've got this kind of fully symmetrical thumb pin, which can be used with the left or the right hand, and the pocket clip can be taken off of this side and popped on this side for left or right-handed carry. One thing which I wish they'd done, but they haven't, is made the pocket clip reversible for tip up or tip down carry. It is currently configured only for tip up
I'm a kind of a fan of tip down, but it's definitely not a deal breaker and definitely not something I'd worry about too much, as tip of the blade is well covered by this curve at the end of the handle. So as I've said already, we've got this nice drop point blade with a nice belly and a nice point to it, which gives kind of lots of really good cutting ability for different types of cut. It really is kind of reminiscent of a paring knife almost that you'd use in the kitchen, which makes this a really good knife for EDC food prep. Let's just grab some paper and do a quick cutting test. As you can see, they're really nice smooth cuts. It's got this nice hollow ground edge on it, which should, being a nice steel, should retain pretty well. Probably not be the easiest knife to sharpen, but I mean, look at the edge it comes with. It's really, really nice and sharp. I mean, this will take hairs off of your arm. I've been really impressed with the edge on this out of the box. So in terms of what you would use a knife like this for and who would use it, there are a few different answers to that question, but I feel really Boker have aimed this one at people who want to EDC a capable, almost tactical knife, but in a country with restrictive knife laws. So they've gone for the short blade, sub 3 inches, non-locking, but one hand opening, but with the option to remove that one hand opening. So in the UK, there aren't any laws specific to one hand opening knives, but you can't carry a locking knife at all, and any non-locking knife must have a sub 3 inch, that's sub 7.5 centimeter blade. That ticks all of those boxes. In Germany, the knife laws are slightly more interesting. You can have a one hand opening non-locking knife like this one, or you can have a locking knife so long as it can't be opened with one hand. So what they've done here is really gone in for that almost world legal market, and I'm stealing that phrase world legal from this knife. Many of you will know this, it's the Lansky world legal, but I just think Boker have done such a better job here of producing a knife that fills this niche. This is a terrifying looking knife. It has the heaviest backspring of any of my UK legal folders. It's got this scary and not particularly practical blade shape, big chunky black handle with glass breaker on. On the whole, this is a scary knife, and one that, even though it's technically legal in many countries, I think you could easily get yourself in trouble with other people or with the law for whipping it out. That's not to say that the Boker Plus XS isn't a scary knife. To a lot of non-knife people, this is still a very tactical looking knife, and I would be careful who I use this around. But I think the red scales people just kind of associate with a Swiss Army knife. It doesn't look like you're trying to hide it if it's in a bright colour. And so I would probably feel happy carrying this generally and using it in front of most people who know me. It probably wouldn't be my go-to if I was out and about and needed to use a knife in front of people who might be non-knife people and who don't know me. Now, this isn't a heavy use knife, as I've already said, just because it is still a slip joint. But also because of the way the UK law works, if I know I'm going to need a heavy use knife, then I will have a lock knife on me. Because if you've got a good reason to have it, then you are allowed to carry a lock knife. But as an EDC for everyday tasks like food prep, opening packages, cutting string to length, and even for some of those heavier tasks, this is a great knife, and I'm really looking forward to getting more use out of it. Finally, the price of these. Now, this one, the Heinnie Haynes Special Edition with these lovely red scales, I believe, and I would probably have to check, seeing as this was a gift, but I believe this retailed at £40, which I think is a great deal for this, when you consider it's got all the capability of something like the Spyderco UK PK, really at about half of the price. Now, the one of these which you can still get on Heinnie at the moment, which is with the black G10 scales, they retail at £56, which for me, for my budget and what I would spend on a knife, I would consider quite steep. But having used this and held it, it's just such a nice knife in the hand, so user-friendly, and just such a great EDC. I would, now I've used it, consider spending £56 on it. On the whole, a really nice gift, a really nice EDC option, and I'm just really pleased to have one at last. So, that's it
for the Boker Plus XS Heinnie Haynes edition. Hopefully you agree that this is a really nice, very capable UK legal EDC folder. As I mentioned in the review, it probably won't become my everyday carry, but it's definitely going to make its way into the rotation, and I'm really looking forward to getting a lot of use out of this knife. Now, before I go, I just wanted to thank all of you who have subscribed. We hit 500 subs just before New Year's, and that was a massive goal of mine, and I'm so pleased that we managed it. So if you have enjoyed this, please do hit that like button, please do hit subscribe if you haven't already, and do join us for the ride. We do loads of stuff on this channel. It's not just knife and gear reviews, there's a lot of airgun stuff, a bit of car stuff, some outdoor adventures, and even some kind of science and technology projects. Really something for everyone. It would be great to have you along for the ride. Right now though, I've been Jamie, this has been Cluey Amateurs. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.